To anyone that doesn't know, New York is much more than New York City and the surrounding areas. Its history and its importance span the entire state.
We are dead center in one of the most important and really beautiful land masses anywhere in the world.
From its origins as a Native American Mecca to its present relevance to the economy.
We've got all the arable soil you can want. We've got game. We have an enormous stockpile of fresh water.
It's where you would go. You could go and fish anytime, get some food, and it was able to sustain us.
This place is rich in history, it's got change over time, and it has a map to tell the entire story. To be more specific, this area right here, now known as Syracuse. How did a city built on water become an industrial powerhouse?
From salt, you move to things like gears, typewriters. Syracuse is the typewriter city. It's the gear city. The air conditioner, right, with Dr. Willis Carrier.
How did highways rewrite entire neighborhoods?
Because when the highway was constructed, Syracuse, much like in many other cities, they went through the poorest neighborhoods because they had to pay market value for properties under, the Constitution.
And what's next for Syracuse? Let's break it down. Stop, wait, before we get into breaking down the maps and using this thing and looking at animals and interviewing and all that, I just want to take this time to formally introduce this channel. This is known as Press Media, run by filmmaker me, Kip Jackson. And if you're into history, maps, documentaries, information, or just want to know a lot about the places around you, this is the channel for you. So take this time, comment, like, subscribe, do all those things, and let's get back to the video. Before the skyscrapers, the factories, and the hustle of downtown, there was water. The Onondaga people lived around Onondaga Lake for centuries, using it for survival and trade. So this next part of the video is for subscribers only. You already know what I'm about to say. Hit that button. It's right there, and let's get back to the video. So ignore the wind here, but I was able to secure an interview with Mr. Robert Searing here in the Onondaga Hill or Onondaga Historical Association. Enjoy.
My name is Robert Searing. I'm the curator of history at the Onondaga Historical Association in downtown Syracuse. We are in the capital of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy was the most powerful Native American group on the continent. They essentially dominate a landmass to the St. Lawrence River and into Canada, into the Ohio Valley, down into the Carolinas. The Great Law of Peace, which was handed down, as the mythology says, by the peacemaker and Hiawatha, happened on the shores of Onondaga Lake. So Onondaga Lake is a sacred lake. It's a sacred site to the Haudenosaunee, as Mecca is to Muslims, as Jerusalem is to Jews and Christians.
So Onondaga Lake means a lot to us. Back in the day, it fed us. It was our refrigerator. If you think about it, for any real preservation techniques for meat, it's where you would go. You could go and fish anytime, get some food, and it was able to sustain us as well as provide, joy with being able to just enjoy it. And now, today, it's one of the most polluted lakes. It's taken away from us. And it's something that we miss and wish we could still enjoy.
And a lot of traffic going by now, but this lake is meaningful to the Onondaga people, to Onondaga Nation in general. It is their life, it is their religion, it's their culture, it's their economy. It is a lot. And it's integral to the development of Syracuse as well.
Noñh Skänu. My name is Emerson Shenandoah. I am a member of the Onondaga Snipe clan, and I am the director of the Skänu Great Law Peace Center. Yeah, so before there were any cities, towns, or highways, our waterways were our highways. You can actually get all the way down to Philadelphia or to the end of the Mississippi from here. You think about it, you go from Onondaga Lake to Oswego to Lake Ontario, You can go to Lake Erie, you can go up to St. Lawrence. Then if you go up to St. Lawrence, you can come down the Hudson. So you can get everywhere going using the waterways. And the land around here, we used it for sustenance.
The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which is so powerful and in control of such an important landmass that the European powers, whether they were the Dutch, the French, the English, had to work alongside the Haudenosaunee in terms of contracts, in terms of treaties. And what you see is a slow erosion of the Haudenosaunee's influence and power in direct result to the upswing in power of the European. The first is salt. Syracuse is the salt city. Really the only major source of inland salt anywhere in the United States was around Onondaga Lake, and that is sort of a accident of geology and geography. This area 3 to 4 million years ago during the Devonian period was a shallow inland sea. As that sea receded, it left salt deposits in the form of halite in the bedrock eventually. What happened was 15,000 years ago, give or take, at the end of the Ice Age, the glaciers that were here started to recede, and those glaciers are the reason that upstate New York and this part of the world have all of this fresh water. So the Great Lakes, the Finger Lakes themselves are literally carved into the bedrock by the glaciers. And as the glaciers left, they carve into the rock and they grind this halite, which mixes with groundwater, which gives the area around what we call Syracuse this enormous amount of salt, both in the ground in the form of halite, which is then drilled and the groundwater comes up to give you this brine, and it used to just sit on the surface. So when the first French missionaries come here in 1654, Simon Le Moyne, the Onondaga show him some of the salt springs around Onondaga Lake. And the Europeans, salt is utilized differently in Onondaga culture versus European culture, but so salt is a necessary product, and so the Europeans recognized the value of the salt here. And as the populations move off the East Coast, where you have access to seawater and things, you're going to need salt. Salt is a necessary component to life and to commerce, to agriculture. And so it really is salt that drives it. So you've got a couple African Americans actually said to be living here in the 1780s making salt. And then the first white settlers come in the late 1780s as well. Ephraim Webster, Asa Danforth, James Geddes come and basically build, from a couple kettles, will eventually build an industry that will dominate the national market. Salt is central to the construction of the Erie Canal. Construction costs for the Erie Canal are paid with a tax on Onondaga salt. The state of New York sets up a salt reservation. Part of that is the dispossession of indigenous lands from the Haudenosaunee, so it's not a coincidence that the same year that they forced the 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee onto a reservation in 1784, they set up the salt reservation, which is around Onondaga Lake. So that white gold becomes really the bedrock for the explosion of Syracuse's population, and then later the development of other industries.
And then came the canal, and with it, everything changed.
Fun factor that if you're actually walking through Syracuse in Clinton Square, which is what this is, right here, I don't know if you can see this, but this is where the Erie Canal used to actually run all the way through. So if you're driving on Erie Boulevard in the future, just know that you're potentially driving over a portion of the Erie Canal.
So the Erie Canal actually impacted us quite a bit. The Erie Canal is built on unceded territory. So the way that the Americans were able to start creating the Erie Canal is through something called the Sullivan-Clinton Incursion, or the Sullivan-Clinton Campaign in 1789. George Washington and the governor of New York, they decide that they're going to send 2 generals, General John Sullivan and General James Clinton, who is the nephew of the governor of New York at this time, to go through Haudenosaunee territory and burn all of our villages, burn all of our crops, burn all of our food stores, and just kill as many of us as they can. And this is so that they could gain that territory they need to build the Erie Canal. And so the Erie Canal, it disrupted the land, it it hurt the land, and along with that, it displaced us into land that was still ours, but displaced us from land that was rightfully ours according to treaties, which are federal law of the land. The Onondaga homeland is a 5 by 4 mile area of about 7,000 acres, I believe. And originally, the whole town of Syracuse is supposed to be Onondaga territory. It is in the original maps of the nation, as well as the cities of Binghamton, the city of Binghamton, all the way down there is also supposed to be Onondaga territory. And so you go from, Binghamton and Syracuse and the whole of Onondaga Lake to just, 7,000 acres is, quite a drastic change.
These streets, these highways, these old factory lots, they tell a story. The question is, what does the future hold for Syracuse?